Welcome, everyone. I'm called to order the September 7th, 2021 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. Would everyone please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Lefkow.
Here.
Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
Alderwoman Sims.
Here.
Alderman Maggie.
Here. Here.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Here.
7 of the 8 members are present.
Thank you, Kelly. Next on the agenda is item 3, announcements, appointments, proclamations, and recognitions. We have one item, and that is one that was brought to my attention during the coffee with the mayor last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. And so with that, I'm going to turn over to Sally Westenberger. If you would, just come up to the podium, Sally.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board of Aldermen. As most of you are aware, the Brentwood Optimist Club is folding after 65 years. Part of it was lack of loss of our fundraising spot and loss of our meeting spot. But when you're meeting and you only got 3 people, it's time to say go. But this one was addressed to our police chief. Per the action of the Brentwood Optimist Club Board of Directors at the August 24th meeting, we are pleased to make the $5,000 donation to the Brentwood Police Department DARE program. The club is disbanding after 65 years since meeting and fundraising sites were sold. As you know, the Optimist Club are a volunteer nonprofit concerned with the youth of the community. Since the DARE program was started in 1987, which was Brentwood's was the first, we have donated $31,200, an average of over $1,000 a year. We request that this check be solely used for the DARE program, hopefully $1,000 for the next 5 years. Thank you. We also did not forget the Brentwood Fire Department. We made a donation to Backstoppers in their honor, and it was read, in honor of Brentwood Fire Department for dedicated service to the Brentwood community during the COVID virus. Thank you so much.
Sally and Carl, on behalf of the city of Brentwood, as well as the residents of Brentwood, I'd like to thank you and thank the Optimist Club for that very generous gift to both our fire and police department. The loss of that organization will be sorely missed, but we really do appreciate what that organization was able to do for the city over all those 60-some years. So thank you again for the continued generosity. Brings us up to the next item, which is a public hearing. Gavel open public hearing for the setting of the 2021 property taxes. Anybody in the public care to address or speak to that issue? Now is the time to do so. Seeing none, we will gavel close the public hearing for the setting of the 2021 property tax rates. Moves us on to item 5, approval or amendment of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Any objection to approving the same by acclamation? Seeing none, that will be so approved. Thank you. Item 6, citizen comments. Anybody in the public care to address the board or online care to address the board? Now is the time to do so. You will be given up to 3 minutes. We have nobody. Let's move down to mayor and alderman reports. First up is the mayor. I have one quick one, and that is the Brentwood Backyard Bash. And I think make sure we cover all of our bases on that. I've asked Eric to come on up and for the benefit of those listening and watching afterwards, to give a quick rundown of what is to be expected at the Brentwood Backyard Bash.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. So we are getting ramped up for the Brentwood Backyard Bash. We're very excited.
I know we're disappointed we can have Brentwood Days, but we've tried to fill this day with tons of activities. So we'll start it off with the parade at 3 o'clock. And as soon as we get down to Brentwood Park, we'll start the rest of the bash. We'll have things like at the main stage, we'll start with the St. Louis Asua Taiko Japanese drummers. They'll do a 45-minute set, and then they'll do a 45-minute clinic for any kid or adult who's interested. If you've ever seen them, they're a great act. Follow up with Hudson the Hoodoo Cats. They'll do 2 sets. In between their sets, we'll have the Circus Kaput Fire Show. So if you haven't seen this, this is fire twirlers, fire dancers. If the weather conditions right, maybe we can get some fire breathing out there. I haven't run that by Chief yet, so mum the word there. We also have a kids stage. We'll act like a sword swallowing, a juggler, magician, and Elliot the Entertainer, who again is another great kids act. So we'll have stuff down there from 5:30 to 8 o'clock for the kids as well. We'll also have what we're calling the Kids Corner. We'll have balloon artists, characterists, face painting, crafts. We'll actually have someone there doing a live portrait of the event, which then we could put at the rec center at City Hall. So this person will be doing that portrait during the whole thing. You can come by and watch her work. It's kind of interesting. We have what we're calling the extreme area, which is going to be our outdoor climbing wall and all the inflatables that we'll have. So kids, we have 136-foot obstacle course. It's the biggest one that you can get. So we're going all out on that one, and that should be a lot of fun. And then what we call the mobile entertainment. So we'll have a gymnastics bus. We'll have a video game bus for those tweenagers. A photo bus, which is it's nice, and you take a picture of the event, as well as the mobile COVID-19 vaccine clinic. So we'll have that there as well. So last, the Brentwood Boosters will be barbecuing for us. We have Sweet Divine Boutique for desserts and craft drinks. And then and we'll have a beer vendor down there as well. So we think that it's going to be a jam-packed day. Oh, and I forgot. We'll end with fireworks at 9 o'clock. So don't forget the fireworks, the most important part. So it'll be a great day of activity. Bull has already promised me good weather for that event, so I appreciate that as well. And the city attorney said he'd take care of it if it was bad. So we got everyone on board taking care of everything for us for this event. So we are excited.
Great, thank you, Eric. And with that, I want to throw down a challenge to all the aldermen, and I think there should be a competition between the wards on the obstacle course. 137-foot obstacle course, I think it was, something like that. And yeah, I think we should do that. No, in all seriousness, Eric has once again made lemons out of lemonade, or lemonade out of lemons. You know, he has taken this, what was no Brentwood days last year into what sounds like an absolutely packed day on Saturday, and that's the 18th, September 18th. And so thanks, Eric, for all your hard work. It looks like it should be a lot of fun. And thank you, Bola, for ensuring that we'll have great weather. Appreciate that. Alderman Plufka, any report?
No report.
Alderwoman Tice.
Assuming Alderman Plufka and I survive the obstacle course, we'll be having a Ward 1 meeting on Tuesday, the 21st, at the Community Center, and we look forward to seeing folks there.
Thank you. Alderwoman Sims.
Well, I will speak for Alderman Awegi. The challenge accepted.
All
Right? You got that? I have no report other than that. You're welcome.
Alderman Weggie.
There is a beer tent, right? So, yeah,
Yes,
we got
there is.
a couple things. Just Sustainability Commission has been working hard behind the scenes, so they're working on a comprehensive sustainability plan for the city. So we agreed on some mission statement, and everybody's doing great work on that. Just as a heads up to the board, a couple things you're going to see in the future is one is a Green Dining Alliance motivation. So see if we can get some Green Dining Alliance restaurants here and how we can, give them an incentive to do that. And an EV readiness ordinance for residential and potentially commercial, which is basically putting a dryer line into your garage so that in the future when we move the EVs, houses are ready for that. So just a heads up on what's coming down the pipe. That's
Great.
it.
Thank you. Alderman Gould.
Yes, the next Ward 3 meeting will be Tuesday, September 28th. Right now, it's scheduled to be in the rec center, but more details to come.
Thank you. Alderman Lockmiller
No report.
and Alderman Shelton.
No report.
Great, thank you. Moves us down to item 8, the city administrator report. We have 2 items under that. The first one is Brentwood Bound update. And Craig, The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Craig Schluter with Navigate Building Solutions. I'll be going through my standard Brentwood bound update, starting with construction costs. Total spent since the last Board of Aldermen meeting is $124,115.60. On to soft costs, $221,860.31 was spent on material testing, flood mitigation, GRG connector, and event lawn comfort station design and engineering, project management fees, and legal fees. Next, property acquisitions, $97,184 was spent on property acquisitions and commissioner fees. In the bottom, in the funding categories, the only change was the MoDOT payment for Rogers Parkway property acquisition was received, so that box is yellow. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Craig? Thanks, Craig.
Great, thank you.
Next up is item 8B, multimodal transportation projects. Bull, are you handling that, or?
Eric
Eric,
Grunfelder.
okay.
Everyone is so much taller than I am. So before I start with this, just spitballing back in my seat, I see almost a cup that we could have, and we can have the winners of each
There you go.
ward, and then we can do even a bracket tournament where the winner will ultimately face off against the mayor, who gets to pass
Wait,
through all the way to the
no,
end.
no.
And we keep it right here at City
Wait.
Hall. I mean,
No, you don't want that.
so on to multimodal. In July, the city received communication from MoDOT requesting assistance to provide a list of unfunded transportation projects. They're looking for municipalities to identify capital operational or maintenance needs over the next 10 years, areas such as transit, ports, pedestrian or bicycle, aviation, or rail. So they're working with East-West Gateway. They expect the St. Louis region to receive approximately $346 million for these projects. So saying this, we quickly staff, the management team along with BOLA put together a list of about 15 separate projects. We submitted that to MoDOT. They asked us to whittle it down to 5 and then again down to 3. And we listed the 3 that we are recommending as our top priorities. The first is kind of, as we kind of talk, our ultimate goal, the Greenway expansion. It's a rather large project. We can phase that as well. We'll let them know that can be phased if they want to do that. So that is the Rogers Parkway from Manchester, expansion of the Greenway from Manchester all the way to Strassner. There's also trail replacement. We thought about, our asphalt trails need replacement every 3 to 5 years, and at the end they start to get run down. So if we could replace them all with concrete and maybe do something sustainable, putting in the glow-in-the-dark stones, we'd be one of the first in the country to have something like that. It's very popular, becoming very popular in Europe. And last is high school drive sidewalk improvements. We would connect kind of 3 of our 4 schools with the neighborhood. It's something we've put out there for SDP and TAP grants before, and we'll continue to do so until we get the project done. But those were the 3 we found, or we thought would be our priorities, and so that's what we're recommending to submit to MoDOT.
What kind of action do you need from the board tonight, if any, Eric?
I think we just need approval to move forward with these 3 projects, and Bull and I will start working on that and getting that submitted to MoDOT.
Would that be in the form of a resolution, or is it just a motion? Okay. Can we get a motion for that, to that effect?
Yeah, I move that we submit these for our projects from Brentwood.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Alderman Weggie, second by Alderwoman Sims. Any discussion on that? Any questions for Eric on that? Seeing none? Okay. Roll call, please, Kelly.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Vote passes by 7-0.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Brings us to item 9, the consent agenda. We have 5 items on there. Are there any questions or requests to remove any of the items from the consent agenda? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Great, thank you. Brings us to item 10, the old business. We have one item under the old business, and that's Bill number 6338. Can we get a second read of Bill 6338 by title only, please?
Bill number 6338, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance to amend section 400.430 of the Brentwood City Code relating to membership of the Architectural Review Board.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect Bill number 6338 into ordinance form.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion to approve into ordinance form 6338 and seconded by Alderman Gould. Any discussion on that? Alderman Weggie.
So this was taken to Architecture Review Board, and I sat in on that meeting to hear their feedback. So there is a red line copy that is different than the 6338. So I don't know if we're considering the red line copy or the original one that we did the first reading for, but there is some differences there.
I
What the
would look-
board
okay,
is
go ahead.
considering tonight is the red line copy that reflects comments from the ARB. And so it would be amended. So that should read ordinance to amend. Well, that's correct.
Motion to amend.
Oh, motion to amend it. But I do want to recognize in the audience, I don't know whether the mayor would find it appropriate to recognize Matt Foreman.
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, Matt, before you do that, do we need to clean up anything where we are in terms of the motion? Then we're good to go, Kevin, procedurally, in terms of the,
I'm sorry, I was
we just had a
reading.
second read of 6338. We don't need a motion, we don't need a read of 6338 as amended?
No, sir, if it's amended.
Okay, great. Matt, you care to speak to this? Come on down if you want. You don't have to. Just, if you would, stand at the podium so that we can hear you. Thank you.
Mainly, I'd be curious if you all have questions for us about the modifications.
Okay.
Our comments were centered around the fact that, as we've discussed, and we've also talked with the new city planner, that Brentwood currently doesn't have a robust design ordinance. Many other municipalities do. So the board feels it's appropriate to maintain, but broaden a little bit, that the Architectural Review Board members be at least educated in architecture, although it is a struggle to find licensed architects that are living in the city. So if we can broaden that out to people that are educated in architecture but not licensed, or were licensed and retired, we felt that was an appropriate amendment to the language.
Okay. Alderman, Alderman
So
Weggie.
I'm looking at the amended, and it does not have the changes included in there, even though it's in there in the title. So I think we're in a, I think we need to clarify exactly what we're voting on. But my takeaway from ARB was that, you know, they felt that education was important, and I don't want to paraphrase Matt here, but, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a licensed architect, but that education was a key component of it. And also, instead of just being Brentwood residents, that they could be somebody who practices in Brentwood, which should open up the aperture quite a bit on the number of applicants that we could get to. I see in here that we're not able to change the residency requirement because that is, requires a change, I guess, in the residency definition somewhere. I guess I think we should clarify the changes here, but I'm also concerned that we're not taking into account all the recommendations that ARB is making to us, and that we should wait and do it in one full shot.
Just for clarification purposes, so I'm looking at the document that was, I don't know the title of it, but it's got the blue, it's a blue line, not red lined.
Yeah. I think the document to which reference is being made is the fourth document identified as ARB comments. There is some redlining on that.
There's only one.
There's only one.
It just changes 2 to 3 is the only red line I see.
Say I have an educational background.
So that is correct. What you're looking at does not have everything that Matt just talked about.
Well, when I followed up after the meeting, I did send the comments when Alderman Weggie was on. I was actually chairing the meeting virtually that night, making markups. I sent it into the city. I believe when she came back with the comments, because I touched base with her before this meeting, honestly, the 2 to 3 comment is a little superfluous, but we're looking to, one of the suggestions was to have 3 board alternates instead of 2, which is, I'll say aspirational. Not sure we could find that many. We don't even have 2 now, so adding 3 is a little aspirational. And then the educational comment, I believe, got in there. And then the working in Brentwood, we're frankly willing to drop that. It's not that, we'd almost rather have the residents, but if it's feasible, fine. But I'm not sure people are going to volunteer to serve on a board in a city where they don't live.
Right.
So, again, kind of an aspirational comment.
Kevin?
If I may, the city has in its city code a general requirement that those who serve on your volunteer boards and commissions, all are to be residents of the city. So that's an across-the-board requirement. It's not unique to this body. And it would have to be changed in the city code if you were going to.
I have a guess that's why Whitney removed it from the comments.
I'm sorry?
I have a guess that's why Whitney removed it from the comments.
With respect to the language change to require an educational background in architecture, the language is previously considered by the board, said that the members to be appointed will have such training or experience as the mayor and board deem appropriate. That certainly doesn't rule out education, specific courses of some sort by some institution at some point in their life as to architecture. You know, people who have that are certainly not disqualified, but it also avoids the necessity of someone saying, I took an arts course in good-looking buildings when I was in junior high school. That's training in architecture versus someone who's in art and science of architecture. So having an educational background is certainly not a disqualification, but establishing a requirement may be challenging for the board to administer. I would just suggest that's a policy call, completely up to you. The language there was to satisfy the challenge that the city is currently having on staffing and getting attendance at these meetings from those who meet the current qualification.
Okay.
Formal requirement to look for that skill set in appointees.
Okay. Alderman Plufka, you had your hand up some time ago. I didn't call it. Do you still?
I have the same concerns that Alderman Weggie expressed, that I don't see what I think was intended for us to vote on. I don't see it in any particular form under any particular bill. I believe what happened is the memorandum, which is number 3 in our stack, combined with what's contained in number 4, I think approximates where we're at in terms of where everybody's thinking, but I don't know that that even contains everything that was changed, and I know that number 1 is not what we were looking to vote on. So I'm not sure we have something in front of us that we can vote on.
Okay.
That's my concern.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Lockmuller.
I was going to say the same thing. I guess the 4th version has just one red line where it says 2 alternative members to 3. I just want to make sure, as the other 2 aldermen have stated, that what you're going to sign, what we vote on, pass, and sign is in front of us, and I don't see it.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Alderwoman Tice?
Mr. Mayor, I think it's actually in there, it's just not redlined, because the memo, in the memo document, number 3, it says,
Let me interrupt you for a second. Which one are you looking
I'm
at?
looking
the
at,
first?
I'm looking at number 3.
Number 3.
The memo.
The memo? Okay.
The memo is redlined, and the memo has the phrase, shall have an educational background in architecture.
But that's not a bill, though.
Focus should be the
Yeah, but
ordinance.
then when you read number 4, which actually is the amended bill, it has the phrase, shall have an educational background in architecture. It's just not redlined. So it's not standing out to us because it's not redlined, but unless that was in the original bill, which means we should go with what Alderman Plufka and Weggie said and just do this next week. Or in the original ordinance, rather.
It has to do with how each person has their Word program set up. What color it's in and what shows up.
Okay.
That's the challenge of using Word, is that it will appear according to the preferences you have set for your version of Word.
Okay.
So these should be uploaded in PDF? Is that the solution?
Now, if they are in PDF, they'll be uniform in appearance across platforms.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure anybody's comfortable then on moving forward with voting on it. Is that what I'm gathering from this? Alderman Weggie?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable, but I would just like to say, I mean, I think the educational requirement is critical here. I think the work that the ARB does is maybe, not appreciated a lot in this town sometimes, but what they do is very important. And I think having that experience and that wisdom is very, very critical. I agree that it's hard to write that down into a requirement, but I would be concerned if we just leave it up to the discretion of the board too much, who knows what's gonna happen in the future? I think we have to get clear direction in this ordinance, and future boards can change it if they want, but otherwise, if somebody who took something in 7th grade, could fit into this, definition, I don't know, I feel like almost we should tighten it up a little bit more, that we need experience and real education in architecture, just not necessarily licensed. And I also feel like part of the problem we were trying to address here is lack of candidates. Maybe this helps us open it up, but if there is a way that people that are practicing, I mean, my takeaway from ARB is that maybe people would be willing to do that because of the public service aspect and the experience that they could get if they're here working, coming to serve on the ARB. Maybe that's something that maybe we would get more candidates to.
May I clarify?
Yes. Please.
Since having an architectural license is a professional state license function, the way the educational system works, you have either a 4 and 2 education program or a 5-year professional degree. I got a 5-year professional degree, University of Kansas. I'm required to work 3 years after after the graduation from university before you're even allowed to sit for the license exam. Back in the old days when I took it, 85% of the people that took the 9-part exam failed it the first time. The bar is fairly high for getting your architectural license. I work in a large office downtown, about 100 people. There's a significant portion of the staff that work there that don't necessarily need to have a professional seal to practice as functioning architects. Very few people actually seal things because that's when the insurance kicks in. So as Alderman Weggie was saying, there's a number of people that are in the architectural industry that work there every day, have the education, it's their livelihood, but they may not have an architectural license. Same thing if they happen to be retired and they don't maintain their annual credits and pay the state, their license may lapse, but they may be more than qualified to serve as a board member.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess the problem I'm having is I'm not sure there's any direction for the staff on.
We'll take it back, clean it up,
Okay.
bring it back on the 20th.
Okay. All right. Do we need any motion then to
Motion to table.
Okay, can we get a motion to table Bill 6338?
So moved. Second.
We had, I think, 5 on that, so we've some seconds also. We'll leave it up to Kelly to figure out who did what. Any discussion on that motion to table? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Brings us to item 11, new business. The first up is resolution number 1312, Stormwater Master Plan. And who is handling this? Is this Dan?
Dan.
Dan, you want to come on down?
Good evening. As most of you are aware, we have Resolution 1242, where we engaged the services of Gonzalez Companies to do our stormwater management permitting for infill housing and as well as other stormwater projects. So what this is actually taking as a task order another group of work scope, and this would be for a stormwater management master plan. This has been to the Public Works Committee. Some of the highlights in here would be that we would have a kickoff meeting. We've already identified areas as a group where we have either water that runs off and freezes in streets, we have water issues between residents, water that comes from the backs of yards that floods the other backs of yards, things of that nature. So what this master plan will help us do is identify as a city the whole 2 square mile area, the pockets that have these problems. Not every street has issues, but we're looking at 30 plus that do have issues that we know of. part of the fact-finding with this stormwater plan would be to have an open house, a kickoff meeting, collect questionnaires from people that have these problems, because maybe there's people that have had problems that just have dealt with it and not necessarily voice concerns to this board. And then also we'll be looking at, the city's policy as far as what we currently have with our ordinances, and then developing some sort of prioritization and ranking system, a cost-benefit analysis. And then we'll also look at the areas that aren't necessarily public right away, that do have issues, and the best we can do is make some sort of high-level plan, but it would be solved at a private level and not necessarily through city's money. And then we'll also be looking at, a drainage analysis, areas that don't necessarily have storm sewers that maybe need storm sewers. So it's a lot to digest. And then one of the things that we'll be looking at as well is, once we figure out these areas and we have a preliminary budget developed, how will we fund these? So there's different mechanisms that we have, whether it be OMCI money, stormwater money, or we can try to get money from other sources. But just for the sake of this plan, we do have enough money in 2021, and then we'll budget for 2022 to do this plan and actually do the identification process, which we think will probably take around 6 months. And if you have any specific questions, Pat Judge is here with Gonzalez Companies to answer anything that I can't, or if you have very specific questions regarding the PowerPoint presentations here as well that we went through with Public Works.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Can we get a motion to approve resolution number 1312?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Alderman Tice, seconded by Alderman Waggy. Do we have any questions for Dan or anybody else about this, resolution 1312? Alderman Waggy.
Just one statement. I mean, if we approve this and this kicks off, I mean, I just as a heads up to all the aldermen that, I think we need to be out there and talking to our residents. I know I get a lot of calls about stormwater issues, and this is going to give us a great vehicle to put them on and get prioritization. But just a heads up that, this is a chance to engage our citizens and really find the problems and get them into this system.
Have we talked about promoting this at all?
Yes, we have talked internally about promoting it. Postcards will be sent out. We'll be putting it on the social media, so every homeowner, and then the city's newsletter, will have an opportunity to come to a town hall type meeting to come let us know, what your issues are, so we can prioritize and schedule a date and time for the Gonzalez Company to go out and check it out.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? Alderman Gould.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty easy one to just have some campaigns in can for when storm events happen, so that we can push socially out. So that's when people are most concerned about flooding and water or stormwater buildup.
It's
So
true.
if Janet or whoever can work on that.
Great
that'd be
idea.
good.
Thank you. Alderwoman Tice.
I just want to say that I'm really excited, assuming this passes, I'm really excited that this can be something that Brentwood will do. I've heard a lot about stormwater issues and the fact that we're going to actually prioritize them, and it's not just the person who yells the loudest who gets help, but we have some sort of a system to look at this, is really exciting.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, on the motion to approve resolution 1312, roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries resolution passes by a vote of 7-0.
Great, thank you, Kelly. All right, thanks, Dan. Next up is bill number 6342. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a first read of bill 6342 by title only, please?
Bill number 6342, first reading, an ordinance establishing the rate of property tax to be levied for the year 2021 for general municipal purposes, fire retirement fund, and public library purposes.
Great, thank you. Bola? Robin handling this? Come on down, Robin.
Good evening. So just to run you through the property tax rates for 2021, the assessed values increased for residential, commercial, and personal property for 2021, and the library tax rates were adjusted because of the Blankenship decision. So in summary, that decision pretty much tells us that cities were allowed to set their own property tax rates above and beyond what the voters approved. The Blankenship decision disallows that. So we're back at the rates that were set using the calculation. So local government entities are solely responsible for setting their tax rates, and the state auditor checks to make sure that those rates are not above and beyond what the voters approved. So for 2021, we are expecting tax revenues of $323,003 for the general fund, $902,781 for the library, and $1,173,899 for the pension fund, and those will be budgeted accordingly for 2022. Are there any questions?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Do we need to have a second read on this tonight? Just a first? Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin and Bola. Thanks, Robin. Next up then is Bill number 6343. Can we get a first reading of Bill 6343 by title only, please, Mr. City Attorney?
Bill number 6343, first reading, an ordinance approving utility easements with Union Electric Company doing business as Ameren, Missouri for electric facilities for the Brentwood Bound Improvements Project.
Great, thank you.
Dan?
Dan?
If you recall, we've been taking these to you, it seems like every meeting, there's some sort of easement that's required. So in this particular case, this is for the Phase 2 flood mitigation project. So there's several relocations that Ameren needs to do as part of this particular project. So basically, it's there is a little map here, an exhibit if you wanted to follow along, but there's 25-foot wide easement that's for overhead power, and it's roughly from former location of Frederick Roofing and Midwest Floor going south along that Breckenridge Industrial corridor to the south side of Breckenridge, or I mean the east side of Breckenridge Industrial. So we've listed the various addresses here that match up with the map, and this is so Ameren can do the relocations and have the ability to do any operations or future upgrades to that would be in its new easement. That's pretty much it.
Great, thanks, Dan. Have any questions for Dan about this? In my notes show we're just doing a first read on this as well.
First
Nope.
and second tonight.
First and second, okay, thank you. With that, can we get a motion for a second read?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a second read of Bill 6343 by title only, please?
Bill number 6343, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance approving utility easements with Union Electric Company doing business as Ameren, Missouri for electric facilities for the Brentwood Bound Improvements Project.
Great, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect Bill number 6343 in the ordinance form.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to perfect 6343 in ordinance form. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Bless you.
Bill passes by a vote of 7-0 and will be perfected into ordinance form, ordinance number 4976.
Great, thank you, Kelly. That brings us to the last item under new business, and that's Bill number 6344. Can we get a reading by title only, please, Mr. City Attorney?
Bill number 6344, first reading, an ordinance approving utility easements with Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District for sewer facilities for the Brentwood Bound Improvements Project.
Dan?
Back again. Just stay up here. This is very similar to what we just covered, except this is for Phase 1, Phase 2, as well as the GRG Part A. So it's a much broader area, but it's the same concept that we need to provide access as well as there's an encroachment easement at these various addresses. So there's quite a few addresses here. It's across the whole project, and this should wrap things up with MSD so that they have the ability to work on their sewers.
Wonderful. Any questions about that? We would like to have a second read on this tonight, so like the last one, can we get a motion for a second read?
Second?
Got a motion by Alderman Weggie, seconded by Alderman Plufka. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a second read of Bill 6344 by title only, please?
Bill number 6344, second reading and consideration for adoption and ordinance approving utility easements with Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District for sewer facilities for the Brentwood Bound Improvements Project.
Chair would entertain a motion to perfect Bill number 6344 in the ordinance form.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to perfect 6344 in the ordinance form. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Bill is perfected by a vote of 7-0 into ordinance form, and ordinance number is 4977.
Great, thank you, Kelly. That brings us to citizen comment, part 2. Anybody in the public care to address the board, now is the time to do so, or online. You will have up to 3 minutes. Seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. What's that?
Sorry to interrupt you. I'll include you in on the email. That's what